sure po. Sure po, sir.
Start ko na mag-record. So,
Record.
apo, pa-state po ulit mo muna yung purpose niyo before we proceed para kompleto sa recording niyo. Okay.
Okay po.
Sige po. Yes, Charlie.
Hello po. We invited you po here today for a short interview about regarding to your job and what you do for a living. So before we begin, sir, can you please first introduce your name po and what do you do?
Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Stephanie. I'm Arjel de la Cruz. I'm a faculty member with the Academic Craft of Assistant Professor at the Pamatasan of Manila, University of the City of Manila. And also, I'm a business consultant for travel agency in Manila.
Yung question po, sir, what made you decide to take this job as a Yeah.
Okay. So currently I'm working as an educator right now, and it's a good thing, right? Because as you see, the industry is very much suffering towards this kind of pandemic. And right now, despite the projection of the International Air Transportation Association, or IATA, that we're now going to rebound back at around the third quarter of this year, 2021. But we see right now in our domestic level that we are now, we're now entering now another phase of the second lockdown. So right now this gives chills for the whole industry. Na where we're going to head? Where is this? Where's the end of this pandemic right now for our domestic scene? But in other markets, I think Thailand is now opening up. There are some rumors that, or some initiative by different governments of different countries to open up the economy. So as a business consultant relating with the travel agency, it's quite very sad, because almost I can say 90% of the travel agency business is, of course, operating under a close or lockdown, or they're somewhat operating in a very conservative mode of operation. But for the academe, since we are a local state university, and I think UST also, we're somewhat shielded from this kind of event because we still have students. Of course, the only inconvenience would be the delivery of the teaching materials. It's not via face-to-face, but via the online platform that we have.
Sige, next question. According to Charlie po, it is said daw that you took up your master's in business administration and you specialize in travel management, di ba?
Yes, opo. So I took up sige po.
What made you decide to take your master's in business administration?
Okay. There are multiple factors that impels me to do or take or what they call this, motivate me to take the master degree. First, of course, it's practicality, since during during 2012, 2013, there is no master's in degree or master's degree relating really to tourism. It's somewhat related to HRM, hospitality management. So I take the generic master's in business administration, so that will be more practical for my sense. Another thing, it's because it's generic in nature, it opens up different perspective. I could see why the airline operate in a kind of logistical fashion, because after all, airline is a logistic business. It's more than it has an element of logistic business. So by taking the master degree, I could understand the different operation of the airline, not only the perspective of the tourism, but also a perspective of a business coming from operation, marketing, or of course different industries as well. So I think that will be an advantage.
Next question. Tell us about any experiences that you do in your job po. Like any experience, insights, or knowledge that you want to share.
Okay, so For almost 16 years of working in the industry, of course, that will be 7 years as a industry practitioner in a travel business or travel professional. I could say the industry is really colorful and also there's lots of to learn with the industry. It not only shows you, I mean, it's not only for the parang gusto lang mag-travel, parang gusto lang mag leisure. No, I think the industry is a industry that is, of course, people oriented. The one who serves the industry is people oriented. We must face, of course, lots of stress because at the end of the day, our passenger is they're not traveling because of, let's say, purely leisure lang. There are some of our passenger might be traveling because of work, because of other reasons. No, of course, if you don't do your job in my industry, let's say travel agency or travel professional, it cause inconvenience to your guests. Of course, syempre, what will happen to their livelihood? Let's say if you mislabel, or let's say mislabel the luggage of the seaman, of course mawawala yung maleta niya, right? Another thing is if you forgot to tell your passenger that you have to secure a passport, or let's say common sense na lang yun, no? You have to secure a passport. So kalimutan mo sabihin, it's the first timer ng tao. Of course, there is a lot of inconvenience, no? So of course, this industry is not only for, I mean, for our you know, personal whims and wants. Let's say, gusto ko mag-travel kaya I want to race. No, this industry it's a people-oriented industry, no? So we should take care of our passenger, especially right now, no? So ngayon, we really, really miss to travel because of this pandemic. But of course, time will come that people will again travel. So these are some of the lessons that we can learn na how to value our profession, how to value our client, how to value the wonders and beauty of travel, of being allowing the opportunity to travel. Kasi talagang travel is not just travel. Travel is for them, it's life. Travel is for learning. Travel is experience. So, those things. So, yung nakamiss lang siya. Okay?
Okay, Pastor. Next question is, what are some of the pointers that you can give to the tourism students like us in the connection to be successful in tourism management?
Okay, for pointers. Okay, so these are the pointers that I could share with you based on my insight working in the industry. So both in academics, since I'm a teacher right now, but used to be a professional. No? So first is, I think for students like you have to identify your value first. So bakit ito, you have to come back again. So bakit ito ba pinili kong course? So what makes me choose this path? So of course, it's what's my value. So ano ba yung mahalaga sa buhay ko? What of course, without really understanding yourself, again, it's hard to charter the water because you don't know your destination, right? No, so you have to understand yourself first. So I think for students like you have to check your value. What's my value? Ano yung pinapapahalagaan ko right now, or ano pinapahalagaan ko sa buhay ko? Next, if you determine your value right now, I think you will have a better clarity of your purpose. So ano bang gusto niyo mangyari sa buhay niyo? Or for example, there are some students perhaps baka naisip na nila mag-change course, no? So of course, I mean that is an of course an individual decision to make, or it's a personal decision to make, no? So of course, you have to introspect your purpose if your purpose is still gusto mo pa rin ba yung purpose mo, okay? Next is if you have your value, your purpose, because this industry is not for the for the easy to sway, because if you're Christian, okay, if Christian, your value is centered on being Christian, right? This industry also, of course, there are so many temptation of the industry, right? So this industry is also, it's being used for other purposes besides the wholesome purposes. No? Alam naman natin there are some tourists who visit Philippines for other sex tourism. So of course, if that is against your value, of course you won't engage for that, diba? So I think for us, for the student, should be very clear to your value. No? Next, I think, is for you to be people oriented. Because this industry is not created to be, no, to be automaton or to become robotic. No, you have to really show genuine interest of knowing different culture, languages, knowing or meeting different types of people, all walks of life, mahirap, mayaman, or OFW, turista, those things. No, if we don't show genuine interest to these people, first, how can you serve them, diba? And of course, another tip is to put yourself to the shoe of other person. So because in this industry, there's a lot of stress. No? So when you work, when you now become part of the industry, pag na-cancel yung flight, diba? So mga turista galit. So they're, of course, syempre, natuwa sila, na-cancel pa yung flight nila, diba? Wala namang gano'n, no? So, you put yourself to their shoe. Kung kayo kaya makancelan ng flight and you are waiting for your job appointment, you are having a medical checkup, and you are having, you have a limited time to meet your family, of course, you will feel the same, no? You will feel the same. You will understand what they're being, ano nangyari sa kanila. So, I think medyo yun lang. So for student, as of your level right now, medyo hindi niyo pa po siya naiintindihan. Pero when you grow up, or I think when you be in your fourth year, when you have your practicum, hopefully you will have your face-to-face practicum because there's so much to learn. Uh, you will understand this. No? Hopefully, that's also during my work. Ito rin yung kaya rin ako tumagal during this work kasi kahit na stressful siya because I'm trying to understand these people na they are here because they are traveling not just because they want it but because sometimes they are kahit ayaw naman nila they are being forced to kasi it's part of their work, no. Next is last two na lang ha. So sinulat ko kasi siya, sorry. Okay. So last two would be I think for across industries to the student should, or you in particular, should be a problem solver, or you should be able to have a critical thinking. So now, napapansin ko right now, when I have my juniors, no, nagtitrain ako ng mga aming empleyado, or when I am being asked by the management of the travel agency to train their new recruit, is napapansin ko kasi they don't want to take action. They don't want to, parang gusto lang nila, sir, ano gagawin ko? Ay, ba't gano'n? Tinatanong mo sa akin solution. Di ba dapat ikaw yung first frontliner, ikaw yung mas nakakaalam ng problema. Di dapat, empower ka nga eh. You should be able to solve your problem because you're the first or you're in contact with your client. No? So, I think yun medyo napapansin ko medyo kulang ngayon. So, for your student like you, I think you should develop your critical thinking or problem solving skills. No? So, uh, yung scenario kasi, di ba, hindi kasi importante alam mo yung sagot. Mas importante how to ask the right question because asking the right question will lead you ultimately to finding the better solution for the problem. Kasi though you have the solution in your manual, in your training manual, but of course, at the end of the day, hindi kasi yung training manual ang mag-decide, ikaw eh. Kasi ikaw yung nakakaalam ng problema ng pasahero. Right? And lastly, you should be able to communicate well because may kasabihan nga kami sa, hindi ko na sasabihin yung airlines or yung brand name na yun. It's not what you say that makes the difference, but how you say it. So yun siya. Kasi at the end of the day, kung galit ang pasahero, ay sir, I'm sorry, we cannot refund your ticket because it's the airline policy, and of course, or blah 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 blah. Now, of course, di ba, parang masyado siyang detached. No? Parang kung ikaw yung pasahero, imbis na matuwa ka or ma-at ease ka, kung ganyan sasabihin ko sa'yo, parang wala siyang pakialam sa akin, di lalo akong magagalit, right? So I think communication really plays a important role for not only in our field but also across all field, no. So communication, 'di ba? Dalawa naman means 'yan eh. Of course, understanding kung saan yung perspective na kausap mo. Let's put ourselves to their shoe first. So yan siya. So okay, so yun lang po.
Next question po, sir. With all of
Yes.
us currently experiencing the pandemic going on, is there a difference in doing your job compared to what it was before the pandemic started?
Okay, so as you did mention, no, so it could since I'm an educator, no, so there is kasi syempre um, most of our classes are online. So I think next academic year we're going to still be online kasi hindi man tayo health sciences, no. For business, as a business consultant, yes, there is, because right now ang pasok lang namin is once a week. So of course that will have a very impact on our productivity as a business because currently we're operating at loss, no. So syempre walang pumapasok, may lumalabas kasi you need to make pasweldo sa mga empleyado. So yun siya. So that's how we see it right now, how we experience the pandemic.
How are you handling your job in this pandemic?
Okay, so as a faculty nga, we're quite shielded, no? So as an educator, shielded kami kasi let's say, kahit yung mga teacher niya, di ba, they still receive their salaries, no? But for the professional, without any extra, buti na lang talaga mo. Oh my God, buti na. I don't know. Last 5 years, I shifted from the purely travel professional, naging educator na ako. Uh, for the travel professional on our in business and travel agency is, of course, our business is trying to look for alternative source of revenue, no? But of course, at the end of the day, it's not our competency, no? Syempre, sanay yung mga tao magbenta ng travel and tourism product. Hindi naman kami sanay magbenta ng tosino, longganisa, alcohol, those things, no? But of course, this pandemic really puts everyone to become creative, no? So kami it's mostly we're selling right now yung mga sanitary products yan for COVID yan. So medyo, of course, the income is not the same at the end of the day. Just pantawid pamilya lang talaga.
For my question po,
Yes,
do you
Martin.
have any opinions or thoughts and on the current state of the tourism and hospitality industry in this pandemic? How to thrive in this current situation po as tourism and hospitality industry?
Okay, so that question, so if we're looking or if we are seeing it in the perspective of the industry itself, let's say airline companies like Cebu Pacific or Philippine Airlines, no? I think, of course, this crisis is there's no model to base on kasi talagang this is unique, no? This crisis almost left us for almost 1 year and counting on. So now, businesses, of course, kanilang priority is, of course, to conserve their capital, at the same time look for lucrative, profitable segments that they can cater on. So I think Cebu Pacific and Philippine Airlines are making a shift from the passenger-based operation now more on the cargo-based operation because they're the one carrying the vaccine from China to Philippines and vice versa. So, ngayon, wala tayong pasahero. So, ano gagawin ng Philippine Airlines? Then mag-focus sila more of the cargo because still, it's an aeroplano. Of course, you're gonna ship your vaccine using mga vessels, no? Mga water vessels or mga ships. Of course, the government will need to have a transportation, which is happens to be air transportation, and which happens to be there's no airline big enough to support that than Cebu Pacific and Philippine Airlines. For them, I think they could survive. Yun nga lang, it's not really profitable for investor. So if you're an investor for that, you don't expect any growth for as long as we have the pandemic. But I think they could survive because there is an operation. Okay? But for the travel agency, medyo ano tayo, medyo uh, and dire spot ka because you are the link between the airline and the travel market or your travelers, no? So I think for them, the strategy is to close muna as long as there's pandemic, and then to, of course, kawawa yung mga empleyado mo, but wala tayong magagawa. That's the thing. Rather than to die eventually. Parang ang gagawin lang ng mga travel agency is to hibernate para matutulog lang muna sila. And then if things are okay, so let's start up. Diba? Ganun lang siya. So as long as parang there's still hope because these are the strategies are being employed by businesses now. So the airline is still okay. Travel agency, no operation yet. Kasi if we operate, we cost more money, we lose more money. So the game plan is not to operate anymore so that you don't pay any tax, you don't pay any employee. Of course, things if things go smoothly, eventually it will does, okay? Eventually it will start up. Parang ano lang yan, parang winter ka muna, tutulog ka lang muna dyan. And for students, of course, syempre kayo, for this pandemic, the show must go on, right? So, I think for you, you have a you can view it as a disadvantage or advantage because advantage in a way that because you can have, for example, you have the luxury of, let's say, talking with me kasi dati kung if it's face to face, it's normal, hindi tayo magkikita because I don't have time, right? You're busy right now. It's the Holy Week season. So marami kaming kliyente. So I'm busy right now. So I cannot handle your query. So of course, that gives you more time to contact professional as well as more time to really improve. Kasi for me, it's a blessing because dati hindi ko alam yung technology. Ngayon, alam ko na because I need to do so because that's part of the adjustment. No? At the end of the day, the student should be able to identify, ano ka ba? Are you a stone or are you a gold? Kasi if you're gold, kahit saan ka ilagay, any situation or any place, let's say you've been placed to a garbage can, you've been placed to a jewelry shop, you're still a gold, right? Still have the value, the same value. So I think it's a blessing for you and also the convenience of not traveling. So you have more time today, and of course you can improve by learning more technological and of course by exploring your own self. Okay, Insha.
Uh, for my next question po, do you have any advice or message for future professionals who are interested in taking up this line of work?
Okay, so my advice to you is, of course, the first concern is, will I have or magkakaroon ba ako ng trabaho or will I land a job? Okay, that's a very much tricky question, no? Kasi we don't know where is the end of this pandemic. So, maari kasing maabutan nyo pa siya. So, pag-graduate nyo, we're still on the pandemic side, right? So that's it's quite unrealistic naman kung sasabihin ko, hindi, push nyo lang, push. Kasi at the end of the day, hindi naman ako party concerned because I'm already employed, no? So I think my advice to you will be general, no? Just like my previous example. You have to turn yourself into gold. So what do you mean by that? You have to make yourself um, valuable in the workplace. You have to make yourself desirable in the workplace. Paano? Two things. First, you are offering value for companies. Okay. Second, this offering is unique among or hindi siya madaling makita. So, to put it exactly, kasi ang mga tao kasi, or ang workforce natin, it's a mix of skills, knowledge, and attitudes. No? So for example, we are hiring people because in my discipline travel agency, we are hiring people because of their ability to communicate, serve customer, and of course, to analyze the travel requirement of our clientele. So these are the skills. No? Now, to put that in general term, so if you develop critical thinking, if you develop customer service, if you develop good communication skills, any industry will be, of course, kahit sa mo siya i-apply, ma-apply mo yan. Kahit hindi lang sa tourism yan because it could be you're employable not only in tourism, you could be employable in BPO, you're employable in other retail industry, in engineering firm because syempre baka ikaw yung salesperson nila or ikaw yung customer service nila doon. Bank and finance, di ba? Those things. So you have to turn yourself into something of a value, just like gold. Because gold, hindi naman siya na mine na sing-sing na kagad, right? So it's mine, bato. So now, yung bato na yon, it's up to the gold or it's up to the goldsmith to shape the stone or the ore into different kinds of gold that they want. But the sense here is that the gold has a value. So intrinsically may value siya. Now, of course, what separates cheap gold to precious gold is of course the quality ng kanyang skills and resources. Of course, if we can speak different languages like Mandarin, Japanese, may quality. Of course, ilan lang ba nakapagsalita ng foreign language? See? Wala kang, I mean, may pandemya, hindi ka mawawala ng trabaho because that is in demand. So that's my tip to you. Okay?
Additional question po. As a business analyst po, while the stock prices of airlines specifically are going down po, what's your take po sa opinion ng ibang business analysts na they say that it takes 3 to 5 years for the airline industry to recover? What's
Okay.
your take in the topic?
Okay, narinig po ako.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, they can all do the projection whenever they want, but at the end of the day, I do believe that the pandemic will end. So of course, if you're investor and if you have a lot of capacity, marami kang pera, you can invest. So that's a good strategy because you're buying at a low. Diba? Eventually, this just like your gold, no? So let's say the gold is pretty mataas siya ngayon, but eventually, at the end of the day, it's still gold, no? So eventually, tataas din siya. So ganun din ng airlines, I think. The business operates in that way.
Okay po. Thank you for the opinion.
Okay. So, yun po.
So yan na po lahat ng questions natin. Thank you po.
Okay, sige po. I-ano ko lang po kasi we're running out of time na daw. So, I just end the conversation and send you the link, ha? So, bye-bye.
Sige po. Thank you
Ingat-ingat.
po.
Thank you, Charlie. Bye-bye.
Thank you po. Thank
Bye
you po
po.
ulit. Thank you for your time po, sir.
Mm-mm.